Osterville Village Library. My name is Amy Wolf. I'm the Director of Programming here at the OVL. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sarah Osborne is the pen name for a physician and writer who currently lives on Cape Cod. She's the author of two cozy mystery series, the Diddy Brown Mysteries and the Flo and Maud Christmas Cozies. Sarah grew up in Northern California, went to school in Ohio, and lived for many years in Atlanta before moving to the Cape. She writes cozy mysteries to bring comfort and humor into a sometimes difficult world. In her books, the good guys always win, and characters seem real enough to be friends. She enjoys writing about older women in her Flo and Maud series to celebrate their strength and competence. Women do make the world a better place. So without further ado, here is Sarah Osborne.
Well, thank you all for coming. And thank you, Amy, for the introduction. Reggie is going to be selling my books, and she is from Eight Cousins. And if you don't know the store, Eight Cousins in Falmouth, it's worth a visit there to see it. It's a wonderful store. It's been around for a long time, and it's really terrific. As Amy said, I write two cozy mystery series. One, the Didie Brown Mysteries, and one, the Flo and Maud Christmas Cozies. I have 8 books in the Didie Brown Mystery Series, with a 9th coming in September. And I have 5 books in the Flo and Maud series, 6 coming out November 15th. I try to write a mystery a year for each series. And if you don't know what a cozy mystery is, do you all know what a cozy mystery is? Okay. It is kind of Agatha Christie, which she's also called a kind of classic mystery writer. But a cozy mystery got its name from the cozies that you put on tea kettles to keep them warm. So in theory, it's little old women sitting around drinking tea, trying to solve a puzzle. And the way I think about a cozy mystery is there's not too much anxiety in a cozy mystery. Typically, it's an amateur detective, not always female, but often female. You come to know the characters. There's a puzzle to solve, usually a murder mystery. The murder is never too gory. It's usually off stage. And often, hopefully in my books too, you can kind of follow along with the protagonist and see if you can't solve the whodunit. Hopefully you don't solve it before the end of the story. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my characters. So in the Didie Brown Mystery Series, Mabel Aphrodite Brown is a physician, a pediatrician who lives in Atlanta, works in a refugee clinic, and has a very good friend, Lurleen Dutois. And Lurleen kind of gets to do all the things that Didie can't do. Didie plays by all the rules. Lurleen plays by very few rules. And I'm going to talk about her a little more, but she's in a way a controversial figure because some people really, really like Lurleen, and some people find her a bit annoying. And in this upcoming book, I allow her to take the stage. So she tells the story. And I have to say, sometimes I'm in the camp that finds her a little bit annoying. But anyway, we'll come back to that. Flo and Maud are 2 women in their 80s who prevent crime during the holiday season. So they'll go anywhere in the United States or anywhere else with their old dame's protection agency and try to keep somebody from being murdered. And so far, they've been 100% successful. So we'll see how that goes. So a little bit about housekeeping here. I've got cookies in the other room and water in the other room, so help yourself to that when you want it. In my Didie Brown books, I include recipes because I like to cook and Didie likes to cook. So the ones that are in there today are tea cakes. Do any of you know what a tea cake is? It's an old, if you ever want to kind of claim that you're Southern, you learn how to make a tea cake. So this is my second or third attempt, so they're getting better. But they're kind of a cross between a cookie and a biscuit, so they're not quite as sweet as a cookie, but they're very light. I also have chocolate chip cookies, and the only secret to chocolate chip cookies is if you want them soft, then just take them out a minute or two early. You guys may already know that. Anyway, so this will be very informal. Get up and get what you want when you want it. And the other thing I'd ask you to do is to sign up for my monthly newsletter if you don't already get it. You can just do your first name and your email address. So it's every month I talk about different mystery writers that I like. I have a recipe every month that I've tried out that's good. I have silly jokes and a couple other things. And if you do sign up, then one of you will be the lucky winner of a book.
Oh, thank you.
So, I'll start. This is really be more like a teaser, but I'll start with my upcoming book. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because September's it's still far away and we're in the middle of summer. So this one is called Lurlene's Tale of Love and Murder. And this came about because an enthusiastic reader of mine said, why don't you let Lurlene tell her own story? Didi always tells the story. And I said, that's a really interesting idea. And this takes place, I always start with location. That's how I decide where my story starts. And this one was an abandoned building in Atlanta, in Midtown Atlanta, that I actually saw, that I had friends who were thinking about were they going to buy it, turn it into a grocery store. So once I have this setting, then I figure out how did the murder happen? And then I figure out who got murdered. And then I'm off and running. And the advantage to starting with a setting is that all my stories, I hope, come out fresh. They don't come out repetitious because every setting is different. Let's see. I'm gonna move too fast here. So let me start with a very short reading from that upcoming book. This is the only copy so far of that book because I'm going to go through it and make all the corrections and everything. So you're the first and only people to see it. Here we go. So Lurleen, well, I think she explains herself well enough. If you have questions when I'm done reading, you can ask me. It's me, Lurleen Dutoit. I'm not the person you expected to be hearing from, I'm sure. Usually I'm Didi's sidekick and she does most of the talking. However, for this story, Didi said it was my tale to tell, my story of love and murder. She insisted I tell it in my own words, mon Dieu. You should know that Lurleen loves all things French, even though she's never been to France, probably never been to Montreal or any place. Well, she did go there. Although I'm never one to shy away from the limelight, this feels like a big responsibility. Didi and I have been a pair since the day we met, and we stick together like butter on popcorn, especially when it comes to investigating a murder. Didi's daughter, Lucy, calls us Cece for the carrot and the cookie, like we're one person and not two. And in a way, we are like Siamese twins, even though we look nothing alike. I'm tall, slender, with auburn hair. Didi is short, roundish, with dark curly hair that has a mind of its own. But we share the same loyalty to our friends, the same love of mysteries, and the same determination to right wrongs. Neither one of us can stand injustice. That's not to say we don't have our differences, because we do. Didi believes in truth and honesty. While I find lies are often useful, probably the greatest difference between us is that Heidi thinks everything through, while I tend to be more action-oriented. Some people call that impulsive, but I call it meeting the moment. Heidi says I'm a murder magnet, but that's not remotely true. It's not like I go around looking for murders, but sometimes a murder just finds me, if you know what I mean. I'm more of a friend magnet. If someone needs my help, I give it. Isn't that what friends do? Amanda was a star student in my cooking school, a young woman with real promise as an upcoming chef. I knew her before she entered my school because her husband, Luke, was Danny's second cousin. Danny is Lurlene's boyfriend. She and Luke were thinking of starting a grocery store and cafe in their Midtown Atlanta neighborhood. They'd found a promising building to buy or lease that was a few blocks from their house. She asked me for tips about starting a business. And as a former accountant and owner of a cooking school, I was happy to tell her what I knew. But she wasn't looking for business tips when she called me early one Friday morning in March. "Oh, Lurleen," she said, "I'm so glad I got you. I can't reach Luke and something terrible has happened." Amanda is by nature an extremely calm person. Was full of fear and something else. She sounded out of breath, as if she'd just run a marathon. My real estate agent opened up the building we might buy and said she'd meet me there a little later in the morning. I took a look around while I waited for her and thought I'd check out the basement. Remember, I told you there were all those crates downstairs? I thought I'd see if I could figure out what they were used for. A couple of hanging lights were on in the basement, and the floor looked as if someone had just swept it clean. It wasn't until I pushed one of the crates aside that I saw a dark stain on the cement floor that looked like blood. Lots of blood, Lurleen, coming from the head of a woman. She was turned away from me, and all I saw was dark hair matted. I made myself feel her neck for a pulse, but there was none. "I'm sorry, Lurleen, but I didn't know who else to call when I couldn't reach Luke." "Get out of there now," I yelled into the phone. "You did the right thing to call me. Did you call the police?" "I'm outside waiting for them to come." "I'm on my way, Amanda." Right. That's just to entice you. See if I get back to where we were. So the other short reads I'm going to do have to do with Didi Brown but not the next upcoming book. It's summer and I think we should talk about vacations. So the book that I'm going to focus on is The Art of Murder, which is a story that takes place in Quebec. And before I do that, do any of you know Canada? Are you familiar with it?
Been there a couple of times.
Where have you been?
Montreal
Montreal.
and Toronto.
Okay.
And I lived in Rochester, New York for a while, so we went to Toronto a bit.
Oh, yeah, we love Toronto when we saw it.
Montreal.
Are there any little stories about being in Montreal or Toronto that you can share?
I can, but it's very unusual.
Good. That's even better. Okay.
So my husband was on the board of a company, and this company sold many different things. One of the things they sold were mink coats.
Was mink coats.
And it was many, many years ago. And Christian Dior made mink coats in Montreal. So the head of my husband's company said, "You should fly up there with your wife and buy a mink coat." Well, I come from a large family. We had 1.5 bathrooms for 10 people. And a mink coat was never in my thoughts. We went up and I was amazed at how cold it was. People plugged in their engines, their car engines. They wouldn't
Wow.
they wouldn't die on them. Batteries wouldn't die. And so that I went and I had no expectations, and the gentleman who was assigned to me said, "We would like to make you a fur coat, and we would like it to make it to your specifications."
Wow. Wow.
Since I have no specifications and I've never had a meat coat, and I wouldn't even know if I'd wear one, but please tell me about what we can do. And so we designed it together. We're going out for lunch, and I had a cloth coat on. And the gentleman said, "You can't possibly go out to lunch like that." And I said, okay, that you need to wear a sable. I had never seen a sable coat.
I don't think I have.
I didn't even know what that was, but I knew I didn't want to be responsible for one. So off I went to lunch in my own coat, and eventually, coat was made for me.
Wow. Did you wear it? Did you love it?
I
Great.
still have it.
All right. That's a wonderful story. And your reward is you get a free book.
I'm happy to buy those, so I can't.
Now, I'd like to give you the Quebec one, but I don't have that. And if you kind of read my stories, I'll get that.
I'm starting,
So that's the first book.
okay, perfect.
So I'm going to give you, I'll get back on here. I'm going to give you the first book because you haven't read the series. They're standalones, but they do much better if you kind of read them in order because they evolve. The characters change and sometimes get added to more characters. Let's see if I can get where I am. So I'm going to read from The Art of Murder, which is the Quebec story. And the background to this is that Lurleen and Danny have decided to marry. And Danny is fluent in French. Lurleen kind of makes it up as she goes along. Like, we don't even know if Lurleen Dutois is actually her name. So she's decided that she really wants to learn some real French. So they're going to go to Quebec. Danny knows a baker and his wife because he stayed with them for a month in college. And the wife will give Lurleen and anyone who wants it some Canadian French lessons. And the baker will give Didi some information, some tidbits about bread baking. She loves to bake. So this is great. So they're off. Montreal is so vibrant, Lurleen said as we drove from the airport to the city, past tall buildings and clean neighborhoods. We all remained glued to the windows as Mason negotiated busy thoroughfares, confusing detour signs, and what appeared to be constant roadwork along the crisscrossing highways that surrounded the city. Our GPS seemed as confused as we were with the new construction, so Mason did the best he could. Eventually, we were out of the city and driving along a major highway heading east. We'll stay on Route 40 until we get to Trois-Rivières, Mason said, and then we'll drive along the King's Highway, the Chemin du Roi. We'd been planning this trip for a while, ever since Lurleen and Danny announced their engagement. Lurleen wanted to be married sometime in the future in Provence, France, in a house she'd inherited from her aunt. But she wanted to improve her French before she did that. Danny said he knew the perfect place, a small village in Quebec along the St. Lawrence River. He'd spent a summer there with a couple who owned a bakery, Marie and Armand Tremblay. Marie had a small side business teaching French to Americans. The bonus for me was that her husband said he'd be happy to give me bread baking lessons. Danny served as our historian and guide. He was the only one of us who spoke fluent French. The King's Highway, the Chemin du Roi, was originally built in the 1700s, he told us, to link Montreal to Quebec City. Now it's used by those who want a slow and scenic route that skirts the edge of the great St. Lawrence River. We quickly discovered that most of the people living in the tiny villages along the King's Highway spoke French as their native language. Some spoke no English. It was Danny to the rescue. He was the only one of us genuinely fluent in French. We stopped in the Ville de Saint-Joseph at the boulangerie owned by Marie and Armand, just to let them know we'd arrived safely and to pick up the key to our cottage. The cottage they'd found for us stood 50 yards from the banks of the St. Lawrence River. I loved the rural feel of the area, tucked away from a well-tended farm, growing who knew what, a secret space that seemed to be ours alone. We took a walk to the water's edge as soon as we arrived. I watched Lucy and Lurleen walking together, so much alike, each slender and tall, and both in love with all things French and all things mysterious. Lucy is Didi's adopted daughter. While they walked ahead, I followed more slowly, hand in hand with Jason, her adopted son. This was a moment I treasured. Jason, newly 9, no longer let me hold his hand in public, but here there was no public. Jason seemed as content as I was to simply breathe in the fresh air, feel the breeze, and check out the clouds overhead, now darkening slightly. I couldn't tell if we were in for more rain, but it didn't matter. We weren't far from our cottage. Jason and I found Lurleen and Lucy seated on a stone bench, gazing out at a wide river, which seemed calm as glass. I knew there had to be currents, but all I heard was the gentle lapping of water on the stony shore. Unlike many spots along the Chemin du Roi, in which homes were perched on cliffs overlooking the water, here we and the water were one. The 4 of us sat contentedly 10 feet from the water for several minutes before Mason found us. Danny has dinner ready. It's beautiful here, isn't it? He sat for a few moments and then led the way back to the cottage. We ate dinner, listening to the absolute quiet of the neighborhood. After dinner, a light rain started pinging on the tin roof, and we were content to stay inside and listen to the rain's music. Danny got a call around 9 p.m. Changing plans, he told us. I just spoke with Marie, and she said how sorry she was, but something had come up, and she couldn't be at the bakery until the afternoon. I told her it would be no problem, so we'll go there around 1. The next morning, Danny fixed us pancakes with a rhubarb compote on top. What I try to do is pick out recipes from the book and then include them in the recipes at the end. So I learned all about rhubarb compote, and it's actually very good. We ate a leisurely breakfast and then hiked around the countryside among farms and riverside paths before it's time to head to the Boulangerie du Soleil in La Ville de Saint-Joseph. It seemed many of the villages were named after saints. Why La Ville de Saint-Joseph, I asked. Danny filled me in. I can't say for sure why they chose the name, but I know that a St. Joseph church was built there in the 1800s, and that St. Joseph is the patron saint of fathers and travelers, among other things. So we're in good hands. The only concern I have right now is how Marie sounded on the phone. She is usually the calmest person I know, but last night she sounded upset, really upset. When I tried to ask her what was going on, she told me not to worry, that it was something she and Armand had to handle in the morning. Well, as you can imagine, they couldn't handle it in the morning. And it turned out that their son was, one of their sons was being accused, he was an artist, of faking Inuit art. Do you guys know what Inuit art is? Yeah. So, and eventually, of course, there's a murder, and eventually Didi and the gang have to figure out what was going on. So that's that one. Let's see. The publicity said that I was going to talk about my path to writing. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll try to answer the questions that I ask other people about writing. Are any of you writers? Wish to be writers? Oh, excellent.
Wish to be.
Yeah, fine. That's fine. So I'll answer this and then I'll open it up a little bit to questions. And there's one more reading I'm going to do with Flo and Mon, and then we can have more questions. by starting with the setting, I think I already said that I feel like I always get a fresh story and fresh ideas. I write for an hour and a half every morning. I'm an early morning person, so I get up and that's kind of the first thing I do. If I'm getting a book ready for publication, then I spend more time, but it's usually an hour and a half in the morning. And it's pretty much every morning. It's what grounds me. It's what kind of starts my day. And I don't know if you know Walter Mosley. He's a very good author of mysteries. And I saw him at a conference and he said, it's really important to write every day because if you have a problem in your writing, your unconscious will kind of work with it during the night and you often end up with a solution. And he's absolutely right. And even on a bad writing day, I mean, every day is different. I will often find something worth saving in a bad writing day. So I do the best I can to write every day. I have wonderful beta readers. Do you all know what a beta reader is? One of you does. A beta reader reads books before they're published. So I have a group of, I don't know, 8 to 10 beta readers, and I get 3 of them to read an early draft and 3 of them to read a later draft. So my books undergo at least 2, sometimes more serious revisions. They're wonderful editors. You have to choose people who like the genre. You know, if somebody wants a thriller, they're not going to want my book. And also people who will be honest with you. So on occasion, I've had maybe too good a friend who didn't want to say, gee, that doesn't work, you know. But I'm very grateful to them. Let's see. I do also read critiques. I read what people say about my books. I know there are people who don't do that, but it's really helped me become a better writer. There's only been 1 or 2 ratings where I thought, I don't think this person read my book. Otherwise, I can sort of say, yeah, I get it. I understand. So we'll move on to Flo and Maud. These are my 2 protagonists, older protagonists, who let me travel all around to different locations. I'm going to talk today about my 5th and favorite, Flo and Maud. I've got another one coming up in November, but this is the one in which Flo comes to terms with the long lost love, so that she hasn't seen for 50 years. And the location for this was Eureka, Nevada. Does anyone know where Eureka, Nevada is? You do, you do.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you know about Eureka,
I
Nevada?
know it's on Highway 50, US 50. I know US 50 has something like 200 miles without any turnoffs that are regular or any place to get gas. And it's called the loneliest road in America.
It's called the friendliest town on the loneliest road in America. And it was the friendliest town. So once we drove through that town, I thought, I really do have to write a story about this. So this is Flo's Lost Love before they go there. I sat at the dining room table in my Boston brownstone, trying to get warm on a late December day. Oh, you should probably know also that Flo is a curmudgeon and her partner Maud is a sweetheart. And Kate is a 40-year-old who works sort of as a bodyguard, carries a gun, does the heavy lifting. So this is Flo. I sat at the dining room table in my Boston brownstone, trying to get warm on a late December day. I wasn't sure if it was my old bones or a drafty house that caused me to shiver as I studied the postcard in front of me. Who sends postcards anymore? Apparently Gil does, and the message was clear in a scratchy printing, all caps. Help me, or I might die. Only you can save me. You loved me once. Please help me now. Kate stood behind me, peering over my shoulder. She pushed her dark hair away from her face as she leaned closer to study the message. So let me get this straight, Flo. A boyfriend from 50 years ago wants you to come rescue him from dangers unnamed. Do you think he's in his right mind? It's a strange message. For your information, Kate, Gil does not suffer from dementia. How can you know that? Kate asked. Because he's 2 years younger than I am and because I know. Besides, if he does, then that's all the more reason we need to go. Max wants to help, Kate said, and he doesn't like the idea that the three of us are going off to some tiny mining town in Nevada in the middle of winter. Max is Kate's boyfriend. I've wondered about that a little myself, Maud said. Maud was the oldest of us, a year older than me, and sometimes she seemed to show her age. I'm not complaining, Flo, so don't give me that look. We are both older women, and the idea of clumping around in foot-high snow strikes me as a little bit dangerous. We have snow here, Maud, I said, tons of it sometimes. And we certainly had it in Maine when we helped Santa get back on his feet one Christmas. You've been spoiled by this winter, that's all, spending it in Florida. I have been spoiled. I admit I like it to be warm. And I was also thinking of Kate driving through all that snow to a destination that has fewer than 1,000 people in it. Eureka is a very small town. I looked up the population on Google. If the car broke down, Max could go for help. I assume you read the sign on the front of the postcard, I said. Maud flipped over the card. The friendliest town on the loneliest road in America, she read. What exactly does it mean by the loneliest road? Maud asked. I can answer that, Kate said. In order to get there, we will need to travel on US 50, which stretches across the middle of Nevada. It's 2 lanes and it passes through spectacular, desolate areas. How long is this trip from Reno to Eureka? Maud asked. You make us sound like we're pioneers. We don't travel near the Donner Pass, do we? That's in California, Kate said. And if we were traveling in that direction, we'd go very near it. It should take around 5 or 6 hours, maybe more. Have you managed to reach him, Flo? Kate asked, to make sure he still wants us to come? You really mean to make sure he's still alive, I said. I couldn't reach him, but I talked to a person who runs a gas station in Eureka. She managed to get a message to him when he came to town. Gil doesn't have a phone or computer, apparently, but he is alive and still wants us to come. He's a recluse? Maud asked. Gil doesn't trust many people, or at least he didn't 50 years ago. He always said the less that people knew about him, the better. So I'm not surprised he's off the grid. I wonder if he even has electricity or running water. This was the man you loved? Kate asked. The love of your life? The one man you get nostalgic about every spring? I never get nostalgic, I said. But yes, Gil was the one man I thought about marrying. He was the one man besides my father who made me laugh. Gil made me feel beautiful and smart, and he promised me adventure. I don't like the term soulmate, but I suppose in a way Gil was my soulmate. What happened, Flo? This was from Maud, gentle, sympathetic Maud. It's a long story, I said. I'll save it for our road trip, if I decide I can tell it at all. So, that's probably all. If we have some questions, we'll go into some questions, but thank you very much for coming. Thank you.